Hey guys, it's BSJ, and I don't like to throw this term around very often. I think this is pretty much the freest MMR that you can possibly have in 7.31. So I'm pretty sure most people at this point understand that Tiny is broken. Pretty strong hero. But we're going to talk about a new build and making sure you get to that build properly that I think is pretty much absolutely busted. So the build came from China DPC, so pretty much all the Chinese pros were doing it. And so we're just going to talk about exactly the formula that you can follow when you're playing Tiny for easy MMRs.
Banana slam jam.
The two issues that Tiny have in the laning phase is that he has a lot of HP, but 0 armor. So this results in sustain issues, and if he's ever harassed constantly, he can kind of get bullied out of lane a bit earlier than he wants to. So when it comes to buying items on Tiny, they're pretty much all items that give you armor / effective HP. We're not trying to give ourselves extra HP. We're trying to give ourselves the ability to sustain through the output of right clicks that the opponent is doing. Tiny also has very few laning items that help him farm. What I mean by this is, other than going straight treads, there's really no item that you can buy early on. You don't need extra mana from like a soul ring, any of this type of stuff, bracers. You don't need this in order to farm faster. None of this significantly increases your farm speed. So all of our items need to be either armor items or effective HP items. So I've avoided bracers at all costs. I hardly ever upgrade to full wand. I'll get the stick if I think I need it just to lane. But a strong consideration is actually Wraithband. So if you're ever in a lane against ranged heroes, where you think you'll be getting right-clicked a lot, or just a heavy physical damage lane, you can absolutely start the game with a Wraithband. You go from having 0 armor to almost 3, which is a pretty significant increase, and Tiny also has terrible attack speed. So it helps him with laning attack speed, but it also helps him while he's farming. So one of the few items in the early game that actually helps Tiny. So we're going to try to minimize our laning items, and we are going to go straight for the more cost-effective farm items. So I got put in a pretty low average MMR game, so I think it's like a perfect game to show you exactly how to play solo Dota. So this game's about a 7.3k average, pretty damn low by my standards, meaning it's about 1,000 or so MMR below me. So what happens in this game is I check and see that my shaman doesn't have any regen for me. We've talked about this a lot this patch, but spoiler alert, if your support does not have regen for you as a Tiny, you're gonna have serious sustain issues, and you'll hardly ever be able to fight the opponent. You pretty much just get to do a like defensive aggro, farm every creep. But that's not that bad, because on Tiny, you have 66 damage plus the 20 damage from the tree. So that's a pretty good amount. You should have no problem CSing at all. So notice how I'm just defensively aggroing, going for denies, still getting clicked, but since I have that Wraithband, taking a lot less damage, and hardly ever really hitting the opponent. Don't use your tree to hit the opponent unless you think you can completely bully them away from the creep wave. So even though I've like tried to minimize as much damage as possible, I got right-clicked constantly, and I'm still running out of HP, so I'll fly myself a bit of extra regen later on in the lane. But notice how the thing about Tiny is, as long as you don't get completely booted out of lane, the hero's like perfectly fine. A lot of matchups he does pretty well, but against like 2 ranged heroes, there's really not much I can do as a low move speed melee hero. So just chilling in the lane, constantly defensively aggroing, just using tree for CS, unless we're going for like an all-out kill attempt. The skill build, a lot of times in the past I used to get a level in toss, but the standard has become that you just completely skip toss in the laning phase, unless you see an opportunity to get a kill, but even then I think it's safe to just skip it, because toss doesn't help you farm. So once the laning stage is over, you're pretty much going to want to have all of your abilities maxed out for farming. So you're willing to help your support on the side like you just saw there, but other than that, I'm pretty much just sitting in lane underneath tower. The HP regen and the armor provided by the tower, incredibly important on Tiny. As I mentioned, his main issue has been sustain. So unless I absolutely need boots, my first item will be Glove of Haste, because I have really high base damage but really low attack speed, and so I want to be able to maximize my ability to get CS. Defensive aggro, and out of all of the items you buy for the lane, Raindrops is number 1, okay? Because Raindrops do not give you more HP on a hero that absolutely does not need more HP, but it makes the HP you currently have more effective. So Wraithbands, Stick, Treads, Raindrops. Pretty much everything else is extra, and you want to avoid buying it at all costs. So, gonna keep fast forwarding. Max out the tree every single game. It's pretty much your 5-charge Battle Fury for the first 15 minutes of the game. Defensive aggro, defensive aggro, defensive aggro. Really can't emphasize that enough. Feel free to try to protect your support with Avalanche, but notice how I'm getting ran at a lot. And the only issue is, if I was getting worn down without sustaining properly, that I could go down there. But there's really no way as a carry you're getting dove as a 1200 HP carry with no HP items. You know, level 6, I have 1200 HP and I have 2 strength from my items. So it kind of just gives you an idea of how tanky this hero is. Even though the Wraithband armor goes down in value once you get your ultimate, because you do get armor from it, you lose attack speed with your ultimate. So it's quite nice to compensate that loss of attack speed. So this lane specifically, I left earlier than I wanted to. It was just because the Quap was continuously ganking. I didn't really know where he was, and it was just inefficient interaction. The thing is, I didn't want to be in lane because I was getting right-clicked a lot. I had used a lot of HP regen. I didn't want to buy any more HP regen items. So if you ever get booted out of lane because of this as Tiny, I want to keep in mind that early game, you don't flash from the jungle super fast. I would say until like level 12, you're not super happy jungling. You don't hate it, but you're not super happy. You're kind of similar to PA, where you get booted out of the lane for similar reasons. You're just a lot harder to kill, but you don't want to be dealing with enemy heroes, because until 15 minutes, your hero farms mediocre. You know, he's not the fastest farmer. So if you do ever leave your lane, be ready to return to it. I pretty much always try to farm this area on Dire, and like this area on Radiant. And if the enemy ever pushes the lane into my tower, I am going to return. That's a combination of the fact that I don't farm jungle all that fast, and it's really hard to dive a Tiny. Okay, it's really hard. So, stack whenever I can, using Avalanche. Notice how I don't really want that extra point and toss. And I'm totally ready to come back to lane if my teammates ever gank. You know, that was my mid lane Viper coming in. I'm always willing to help, and that's exactly why I farm near the lane, because I'm looking to return to the lane, and I also am helpful. You know, even if I don't want to lane, I'm still a very strong early game carry. I hit for 130 damage, and I also have a stun. So every time I get the opportunity, I stack camps. Really important on Tiny since he has 100% cleave from his tree. And notice how I'm always willing to return to my lane if it's near my tower. So a lot of you are thinking, BSJ, why aren't you buying the components of an Echo Saber? Isn't that the obvious build? And the answer is yes, if you were playing Tiny 2 weeks ago. What people are now doing on Tiny is what we are calling the Shard build. And then that is Moon Shard into Shard. It probably sounds like a meme to you, okay? Let's just be very clear. I hope you hold your horses, sit down for a second and realize that Shard build is absurdly broken, okay? Right now, my attack speed is 104. With a Moon Shard, since I have 0 agility gain, I will more than double my attack speed. It's a combination of more than doubling your attack speed on a hero that ends up getting a free Battle Fury, a hero that already hits for massive damage, and let alone the night vision's actually really nice because you're a hero that can set up kills, and it also helps you avoid getting ganked. And quite frankly, Tiny just needs nothing else. Massive damage, really tanky. The reason why a lot of other heroes in the Dota game can't rush a Moon Shard is because they're lacking something. You know, they're lacking durability, they're lacking move speed or something. Farm speed, they lack something. But Tiny, the only thing in the game he misses is attack speed. And a lot of times people go like Echo Saber, Shadow Blade, and then to something like a Soul Cuirass. And why buy all these items when you can just get 140 attack speed with one item? So, we're going to fast forward. Keep pushing out your safe lane as often as you can. Once you eventually get booted out, usually like you end up just giving up around the 10-minute catapult is what I end up doing. That's when I'll start rotating to my Ancients. Usually I'm level 8, level 9, give or take. Got my first Hyperstone. But I'm totally down to just walk back to the top lane if the opponent abandons it. Notice how I left in the first place because they were constantly pressuring it, but always down to go back. Farming Ancients at this point in the game, it's just not ideal. You take a lot of damage and you don't have any built-in sustain, so I'm totally willing to go back to my safe lane anytime there's a creep wave pushed into my tower. So in this case, it was pushed into my tier 2, TP'd back to my Ancients to make sure I got those stacks off, and then I use my tree to clear one camp, and then I go back to the lane. So I'm never going to force the Ancients, guys. The Ancients are like something I'm willing to stack because I can take them pretty much any time. But it takes 2 charges of my tree at this stage in the game, so it's going to be kind of a slower process. Notice how I keep returning to stack them, use my tree, triple stack. I'd say at the triple stack, it is going to be efficient for your time, because it takes you the 2 charges of the tree, as you see here. And then it's going to go right back, chilling, playing off map. And you're basically like a PA at this stage in the game that has 2,200 HP with no items, okay? So we've got our Moon Shard. If I wasn't quite as pressured, like if I was free farmed in lane, I did this in my other game I played Tiny, I had Moon Shard at about 15 minutes. But if you get pressured, if you're maybe not the most efficient Tiny player at this point, you can absolutely be fine with getting your Moon Shard and getting your shard about a minute or 2 after you normally get it. If you're like having a really rough game, maybe Hyperstone into shard, back into the second Hyperstone. But that's something where you definitely messed up if that's the case. Just repeat this farming pattern over and over again until you get your shard. The reason why you're kind of stuck in this area is because without your shard, you just don't farm fast enough to get out of there. That's pretty much all there is to it. And the biggest thing I've noticed about Tiny is nobody really messes with you. Like, who on their team, they have to bring like 4 heroes to kill me, right? I've got 17 armor and 2,400 HP at 16 minutes into the game. Reminder, with no items. So now I've got my shard. And this is when the build starts to look ultra broken, guys. Ultra freaking broken. We're just going to kind of like fast forward on 4x and just, you know, farm the entire map. In terms of neutral items, Quicksilver Amulet, Brigand's Blade, pretty much anything that gives attack speed, Van Brace, I would consider high value. If I'm concerned about getting ganked right now, I'll go for a BKB. Like if I just think I'm going to die. And the reason why I go BKB is it's the one item in the game that just lets me farm wherever the hell I want. And even if I go BKB, I can just farm anyways. So if I'm really concerned about getting ganked, I'll go BKB. If I'm more concerned about trying to kill people, I'll go Shadowblade. So in this game, I'm more concerned about trying to kill people. And this is just Tiny in a nutshell right here. While I'm farming, Moonshard only. And that guy's dead. With 0 items, 0 tankiness, 0 damage, I hit for 300 and have 2,500 health, guys. 18 minutes into the game. And we're going to see a tier 2 get pressured, something you can constantly look to do. But if you force reactions, guess what? Back off and farm a bajillion creeps a minute. As you see, infinite amount of farm, leave the enemy team and take a tower. Oh, that's a mid tower gone in about 6 seconds. See you guys. The thing about Tiny is he's a Battle Fury hero that farms incredibly fast. And if the opponent ever reacts to what you're doing, because they have to be scared of you, because you kill buildings really fast and you also kill heroes really fast, you just leave and go kill a building somewhere else. In this case, I'm taking their stack. That stack went bye-bye in about 6 seconds. See you later, stack. And reminder, I have an extra 400 night vision, so at nighttime, I'm very immune to ganks, as I'm always willing to potentially help my team, but kind of just, if the enemy team's running around as 4, which will happen a lot because you're Tiny, and all of them are incredibly afraid of dying to you full to 0, you just walk away from them, guys. Never really fight them. The beautiful thing about Tiny that I think makes him such free MMR is he forces the enemy team to group up. If they're proving to you that they're not grouping up, you just solo kill the guy right in front of you. If they are grouping up, you simply just walk away and farm 20 creeps a minute. So if I don't go BKB, my next item is going to be survivability. It's either going to be Satanic, BKB, in this case, a Manta. They just have Quap Dagger, Silence from Techies, Silence from Death Prophet, Root from Treant. So in this case, Manta was the best survivability item. But like every game, it's going to be a bit different. But I just want to remind you guys that as long as you're alive, you're farming a bajillion creeps a minute. Okay? Let's just remember that. If I do not go BKB, my next item after Shadowblade will be an item that keeps me alive. Whatever it may be, that's what it's going to be. So, it's going to continue farming as you see the net worth just skyrocketing. 12k at 21 minutes. Nothing really fancy. As I just walk around the map clearing all the creeps, I see all the heroes on the enemy team bottom. The best part about the Moonshard build is Tiny generally doesn't do a ton of sustained damage. He usually is like an Echo Saber volley of burst. But this build allows you to just become a Rosher. You kill towers in like 5 seconds. And then you just keep farming. And oddly enough, this happens in both of the Tiny games that I've played, where the enemy team just never fights me. Because I've got a bajillion HP and I hit for 400 damage with no items. So I just kill people, and then I TP to farm. And then rinse and repeat, rinse and repeat. I pretty much consider enemy heroes gnats on my computer screen. Sometimes they get in my way of farming and I'll have to kill them real quick. But then, you know, building, see the enemy team on the map. Oh, they're not coming back. They have a hard carry like PA trying to get a Battle Fury. This guy tries to defend alone. Let's go ahead and take 90% of his HP real quick. And go ahead and kill a tier 3 at 24 minutes, single-handedly through Treant armor. That Rax just got 5-shotted, that one just got 4-shotted. I've played against this build as Tiny as well, meaning the enemy team has a Tiny, and what it feels like from the enemy perspective is that Tiny just disappears off the map. Like, you don't really see him. You don't really want to gank him because he's got a bajillion HP. And then at like 22 minutes, he just walks down a lane and kills all your buildings. That's about the timing, because you get the 15-minute shard, you farm super fucking fast, and then you just walk down lanes. And I've noticed that in the games I've lost to it as well, there's really no hero interaction. Nobody wants to gank you. Nobody wants to play by themselves on the map because you killed them. And then after that, after you farmed a bajillion creeps, you just kill their entire base very fast. No reason to force it though. If they're all sitting at base like they are, we're just going to keep farming. Nothing wrong with that. We're going to go and TP to our own side of the map. We farmed their ancients, our own ancients. We're going to farm, what is that, like 12 jungle camps in this last minute? Oh, we're going to go ahead and get this guy out of here. That gnat was in my way as I was farming a creep wave. See you later, PA. This is my area now, bitch. As Treant's trying his best to buy some time as well. Not even worth my time to chase him. And after the Manta, or the BKB, or the Satanic, you can consider upgrading to Silver Edge, you can consider Daedalus. I mean, I pretty much just go pure survivability items with this build. In this game specifically, I didn't really need a BKB. They had like a lot of damage over time, so I viewed Satanic as really valuable. For the same reasons Manta was valuable, the Purge on Satanic is really nice as well. And you just walk around the map. And to my experience, it doesn't really feel like you're doing anything. That's why I think the build's so absurdly broken for anyone of any MMR. You don't have to do anything fancy. You just hit a lot of creeps. And if someone gets in your way, you hit them. And if they all group up, you walk away and go hit some more creeps. That's pretty much it. And the net worths look approximately like this. And the moon shard gives you the extra night vision to make sure you can see them before they see you. Hunt people in the back and solo kill their offlaner. Then you kill those guys, then you kill that guy, and then you go and kill their base. And tier 2, I think, went down in 4 hits. That was five hits for this tier 3. 6, 7, 8, 9. 9 hit tier 3 with a moon shard and a shadow blade and a manta. And the game just abruptly ends. So, get your MMR while it's hot, guys. I know this may seem like it was a stomp of a game, but if you rewind to the 15-minute mark, which is about what it's going to be most games, I'd say, is Tiny, it's going to be a pretty even game. Let's make sure we go back to the 15-minute mark. It's a very even game. This is about what the net worth scoreboard is going to look like in most of your Tiny games if you played properly. You're a really strong laner. You're really hard to gank, so your early game should be at least pretty decent. The game should be about even at 15 minutes, and then you get the shard, and about 10 minutes later, it's a complete fucking nightmare for the enemy team. So, thanks for watching, guys. Easy MMR. Bye.